Namaste and good morning, everyone. Today is our Wednesday class. Let's start the class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhuvasvaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityurma amritam gamya. Om sahna bhavatu, sahna bhunatu, saviryam karvavai, tejasvi navadhitamastu, ma vidvishavai. Om shanti shanti shanti. We all have studied many scriptures, listened to many saints and the holy people also. What do we really learn from them? Are these mantras just to recite? Are those talks just merely to listen? And I'm sure you'll all say that no. Ultimately, we have to use all that in our daily life. In other words, we got to learn how to live wisely. Wisely. We all know that life is nothing but a transaction between the world and ourselves in the form of perception and response. That's what we call life. Because once we are born, we cannot escape life. We have to respond. But whether we do it properly or improperly, that decision is up to us. In other words, whether we act wisely or unwisely, it's up to us. With our sense organs, we perceive the world. And with our organs of action, we respond to those perceptions. So action organs are called karmendriyas, sense organs are called jnanendriyas. So through the jnanendriyas, they are like an inlet. We receive the information. And through the karmendriya or the action organs, we respond back. And the nature of our responses will vary according to the quality of our mind and intellect. Because all that information which comes through these senses, it goes into our mind. All that information, and our intellect discriminates that. And based on that, we act. Because we all know we cannot avoid action. But we can definitely choose which action to perform and what attitude to have while performing them. That choice we have. In Bhagavad Gita, the 3rd chapter, you all remember, the title of that chapter is Karam Yoga. In verse number 5, Lord Krishna says, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthte akaram krita karyate hi avshaha karam sarvaha prakriti jagune. He says, verily, no one can ever remain without action, even for a single moment. Shanamapi. Shan means a moment. Everyone is made to act helplessly, indeed, by the qualities born of Prakriti. So this verse tells us that all beings by force of nature helplessly perform action. Some people may disagree and say that they are unemployed or unemployable. That may very well be. But the fact remains that no one can remain without activity. So the first principle to keep in mind is that we cannot escape action. Let us review the definition of the word karma. It means of the nature of some movement, some activity. As nature compels us into activity. We may argue that we can sit without moving, but we forget that sitting is also an activity. Then we may say that we will only stand, but to stand is also an activity. The simple explanation of action or activity is that which tires one. Even sleeping is an activity, and we can get tired of sleeping. Breathing is also an activity, and so is thinking. So we cannot escape activity. It will continue whether it's voluntary or involuntary, or whether we do it wisely or we do it unwisely. Another principle I would like you to remember, there is a beautiful definition of God. God is the doer of those actions for which we cannot take credit. For example, eating is a voluntary process, but once we put the food in our mouths, we cannot take any credit for what happens to it. The food is digested automatically, and the nutrients are transported to the various organs without any effort on our part. Our heart, lungs, and stomach are all working perfectly, without fail. Even in the mother's womb, the baby is growing without any effort of mother. If we had to consciously perform those functions, we might occasionally forget to digest food, to move the blood around, or to breathe. Fortunately, God did not put that control in our hands. So no one in this world can live without action. Remember that. If someone were to try, they would fail miserably. In the next verse from the same chapter, in fact, this is verse number 6, Lord Krishna portrays a person who insists on physical activity or physical inactivity. That means his idea of not doing anything is very simple. He sits still with his hands locked in his lap. But what is the condition of his mind he describes? He says, Karmindriyani sanyame, ya aste manasa smaran, indriye arthan vimudhatma, mithyachara cha uchyate. So Lord Krishna says he is a deluded one who restrains their organs of action but mentally dwell upon the sense enjoyments. He says he is a hypocrite. Mithyachar, vimudhatma. So someone who controls his organs of actions physically but still his mind continues to be active, remembering places, events, people, joys, sorrows, and also making plans for the future, but thinking that I'm not doing anything. We all know that our mind becomes especially active when we sit down to meditate. It is hard to sit still with so many thoughts. We may be able to force the body to sit still, but by suppressing action, we only delude ourselves. A person may have controlled the body, but the mind will be running in many, countless directions. So what is the advice? This great teacher, in the next verse, in the same chapter, giving us a beautiful advice. He says, let the body be active. To bring the mind under control, you need to do something. He says, yasto indriyani manasaha niyame aramte arjuna karam indriye karam yogam asakta shishyate. The one who controls the senses by the trained and purified mind and intellect and engages the organs of actions to selfless service, he says, is superior. He says that's the way to do it. So purification of the mind and the intellect and staying busy with the selfless activities. This is the technique. Sense organs are meant for perceiving the world, but our mind should have the capacity to be able to discriminate what we perceive. It is important to know which sense objects to enjoy and which to avoid. That is called discrimination. And that discrimination is the act of the intellect. Which one to enjoy and which one to avoid. Let's take the case of someone who has diabetes. The doctor advises that person to stay away from sweets. It's not that the person has to stop eating altogether. They only need to be able to use their discrimination regarding what kind of a food to eat. In the same way, we should be aware of the kinds of effects that sense objects will have on the body. Constantly we are living in the objects. We are living with the people. We go to the places. We got to make sure that what enters through our senses. The scriptures do not say, do not hear, but they do say, may you hear what is auspicious. Listen to that which will elevate your mind. That's why scriptures say, hear no evil, speak no evil. So from the sense organs, if the bad words go into our mind, sure, from the mouth the bad words will come out. From the eyes, if we see bad, only bad will come out. So that's why they say, hear no evil, speak no evil. Evil is that which will agitate. That's evil. Evil mind is agitated mind. Evil speech is which will agitate the person who's hearing it. So evil is that which will agitate and pollute our mind and make our mind extrovert. This mind doesn't have to be extrovert all the time. It needs to go out only when it needs to go out, not unnecessarily. Most of the time, it should be absorbed in the divinity. So not to hear, see, or speak evil is practicing restraint of the senses by our mind. This is called pratyahar, according to Rishi Patanjali's terminology in Yoga Sutras. Controlling your senses, keeping them under your control. Take them out only when there's a need for it, not unnecessarily. So a person who has controlled the senses and engages in actions without attachment is considered a karma yogi. Because this is a chapter about karma yoga. So a person who has controlled the senses, all the senses should be in our control, still engages in action without attachment is considered a karma yogi. Remember that karma yoga is not defined by any particular action, but by one's mental attitude while performing the action. Yoga is non-attachment to the action or the results of the actions. Remember that part also of karma yoga. Most of us have strange notion about karma yoga. We think being a workaholic is karma yoga. Some people will not attend satsang or listen to the spiritual talks or study scriptures on their own because they're always working and call themselves karma yogis. They may claim that they do not read or listen to Gita, but certainly they will claim that they live Gita. But the fact is that someone who does not know Gita cannot possibly live it. You have to know it. Because if you were to ask such people why they are working so hard, they would probably say it is for money. And that is not karma yoga. This does not mean that we should not work for money or that money is not important. But to work for hours on end just for money or personal gain does not qualify as karma yoga. That distinction we should have. Our actions are usually desire prompted and generally for personal benefit. We always see, what will I get out of it? Even a thief works hard. A thief plots, plans, illegal schemes. And a thief is, sometimes we think that we have a different kind of a notion about a thief. If you look at it deeply, anybody who takes, keep on taking and taking, not giving back is a thief. How much we have taken from this mother nature? In proportion to that, how much we have given back? Even the air we breathe, does it belong to us? The earth we walk on, how much we have gotten from this mother nature? And then there are all different kinds of thieves. So it does take plotting and planning. But if we go to that person who does the illegal actions, can work hours and hours, working hard, but we will not call that person a karma yogi. Especially when the actions are harmful to others and thus to the society at large. It's not a karma yogi. So mere working hard does not make a person karma yogi. We know that some thieves who even pray to Lord before going out to loot and steal, they will ask Lord's blessings for their actions, but that does not qualify as karma yoga. Another aspect of karma yoga is that the action be performed skillfully. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. If somebody wants to steal somebody's wallet, skillfulness is needed, but that is not a karma yoga either. So dexterity in action is no doubt an important aspect of karma yoga, but by itself it's not enough. The most important aspect of karma yoga is that one should perform action without any longing to enjoy the fruits of the actions. That doesn't mean that enjoyment won't be there, but in your mind, the longing should not be there. Sure, you're cooking food. When you eat, you will enjoy. But while cooking, if you keep on thinking about that, oh, I got to enjoy, I got to get the pat on my back, then it's not a karma yoga. Lord Krishna explains that when we perform action in the spirit of karma yoga, these actions lead to spiritual realization. That's where karma yoga takes us. How? Because they purify our mind. And these kind of actions will take our mind to the greater heights. Lord Krishna has explained to Arjun that he has no choice. Act he must, but he should know which actions to perform and how they should be performed. That's where lies the secret of karma yoga. And in the next verse, in the same chapter, see, all these verses are just connected beautifully. So in verse number 8, he says, Niyatam kuru karam tvam karam jyayo hi akarmana. Sharir yatra api chate na prasiddhyet akarmana. He says, perform your obligatory duty, because working is indeed better than sitting idle. Even the maintenance of your body would not be possible without work. Niyatam karam. So he says, one cannot escape action. Anyone who tries to do so ends up a hypocrite. He said that earlier. We should perform our duties. Action is superior to inaction. That means sitting idle and letting somebody else do it. Do your own duties. Healthy existence in this body is impossible without action. Nobody should be inactive. We need to understand the concept of this obligatory duties, because as part of society, we cannot avoid certain responsibilities, because we are part of this society. When we were children, we had certain duties to our parents. And parents had certain duties to the children. When we went to school as students, we followed the rules and the regulations of our colleges and universities. Then after that, we did some kind of a job. we adhere to the job descriptions. Even when we drive on the road, we have to follow the rules of the road. When we live in a particular country, then the constitution of that country governs us. These are all duties. In religion also, every religion, the scriptures tell us what to do and what not to do. Those are called scriptural injunctions. So just like a secular or social rules, they place obligations on us. So the same way, the religions also put some duties on us. So that's why the term nityam karma implies various duties. Those found at home, at work, in society, or in spiritual life. In all aspects of our life. Obligatory duties are not meant to bind us. Because sometimes people think, no, I want the freedom. No, there's a reason for these duties. They are meant to release us from bondage and to help integrate society. That is the purpose of these duties. So they don't bind us, they release us. At the individual level, acting from a sense of duty helps us rise above our likes and dislikes. Okay? Because likes and dislikes, we need to rise above. And when we remember that this is my duty, then what is there to worry about whether I like it or not? Personal likes and dislikes. When we pay attention to these duties, we become less selfish. We even show consideration towards others. When we are driving on the road, if we follow the rules, sure, we are showing concern for others. When people work together, following common guidelines, that's where the integration is. Whether they are working on a project at work or whether they are working in their church or the temple or for some other community event, that's how the integration is. And that is the community which really prospers. Each person's duties depend upon the individual stage, station, and goal in life. We should have that clear in our mind. See, just like we had different duties when we were students, different duties when we were in the work field, different duties when we retire. So stage in life, station in life. And goal in life at that particular point, and always remembering the ultimate goal, which stays the same. The dharma or duty of one individual may not apply to another. Because we could be in a different stage in life. So that's why try not to judge others or look down upon them. That's how we dirty our own mind. When we judge others. From the many rules and regulations that govern our lives, we should choose the ones that apply to us. Pay more focus on yourself. Because once we know what our duty is, we should perform it sincerely, efficiently, and to the best of our ability. That is what Lord Krishna is teaching us. And that's what he means by telling us to perform niyatam karma. Because rules in life exist for a reason. Sometimes we just spend so much energy criticizing the rules. So instead of criticizing them, we should analyze them, analyze their purpose, and then fulfill those that apply to us as an individual. See, for example, from a medical standpoint, a doctor may advise us to eat garlic or onions to help lower our blood cholesterol. So this is from a standpoint of physical health. Hindu scriptures, however, advise us not to eat onions and garlic because they are considered Rajasic food. So doctors talk from the standpoint of physical health, which is quite valid, but the scriptural injunction comes from a different angle. Most people eat onion and garlic for taste, not for the health reason. So when the scriptures advise us not to eat these foods, they are concerned with our slavery to the taste buds. This is from a scriptural standpoint, and that's equally valid. So far we have learned that in Karma Yoga, there's no room for inactivity or laziness, and that we must perform our duties. These are like aspects of Karma Yoga. Because people engaged in selfish and prohibited actions may justify that. At least they are active. They will say we are active, that doing something is better than doing nothing. But if we pay attention to this, that remember that we should never engage in harmful or criminal activities. Whether it's harmful to us or harmful to others. The principle is simple: live and let live. Just as you want to live happily, allow others to do the same. And just as we do not want anyone to harm us, we also should not harm anyone. Prohibited actions, which are called vikarama or nishidh karma, are defined as those that are done out of selfishness. They are prohibited actions. The greatness of human life is that we have the capacity to sacrifice. And what are we sacrificing? Sacrificing our selfishness, our own interest, sometimes even our own life, for the sake of others. Human beings are capable of doing that. If a person can sacrifice for others, we say that person is great. And this is a fact irrespective of culture, society, or religion. Sacrifice. We are sacrificing our self-interest for the betterment of others. In Niyatam Karma, obligatory duties, our likes and dislikes have no role to play. No role. So they become neutralized. This is how we rise above this duality. I'm supposed to do it whether I like it or not. Supposed to serve my parents because they took care of me when I was little. These 5 elements out there are keeping me alive. It is my duty to take care of them. Should not pollute the earth, should not pollute water, should not pollute air, and definitely not space. by using bad language. So if somebody says, no, I like to do it. No. Likes and dislikes, they should be neutralized when we pay attention to these niyatam karam. When we perform our designated duties, our minds become focused. They become singular. Instead of having our thoughts into every which way, they just become one-pointed. This is the beauty of for performing the designated duties. When there's a definite schedule planned, like a daily duties, I'm supposed to get up at this time, and this is what I'm supposed to do when I get up. Mind just gets focused. Whether I like it or not, this is my duty. To get up a certain time. Do take care of this body first. And do other actions, whatever you are supposed to do. So fixed plan, definite schedule plan should be written down for us as students. That's how our mind can become single-pointed. Otherwise, every morning you're just thinking about, what should I do now? No, the same thing. The mind has no time to wander then. Because mind loves to wander. Do not let your mind wander. That's why during your Hatha Yoga class also, keep your mind inside you. Whether you want to keep it on certain part of your body or chakras or breath, keep your mind there. Tell your mind that you're not supposed to wander. This is not the time for wandering. When you meditate also, tell your mind, I am the master. You are not. When we become the master of this mind while living in this body, when we leave this body, the mind will take us towards the proper place. So training time is right now. And while doing the duties, and this is what Lord Krishna is telling us in a very practical way, how to control our mind and do our duties. Because if you do Karam Yoga with the right attitude, your likes and dislikes will get neutralized. Remember that. Because often people say, how can we let go of the likes and dislikes? Got to just understand it and remember it while doing your duties. You'll see that your vasanas will exhaust by themselves. You don't even have to do anything. This is the power of Karma Yoga. All of a sudden, you will say, gosh, I don't have any desires. No desires. Fully content under any circumstance. That is the power. And definitely no new vasanas will be created. Otherwise, what happens all of our life, we keep on substituting. We keep on replacing our likes and dislikes. Today I like this, tomorrow I like that. And we never become free. We came here as entangled, and when we leave, we are even more entangled. So that's why we got to work on our mind right here, right now, while doing our obligatory duties. Looking back into history, we are clearly able to identify the heroes. They are the ones who dedicated their lives to the welfare of the others. not those who lived for themselves. We never looked up to the selfish people, self-centered people, whether in our own family or whether in the community or whether in the nation or at world at large. Or even the people who had just acquired wealth and the positions. No. Even today, those true Karam yogis evoke reverence in our minds and hearts. And when we have the reverence, and when we know what to do, the next step is now we need to become that, because this is not just for only select few. We all need to be there. So I just wanted you to go through these few verses and see how practical the knowledge Lord Krishna has given us so that we can live wisely. We just don't want to just to go through day after day, living the same way, but to use this information, this knowledge. Because when the knowledge is assimilated, when we live a life according to that knowledge, only then it becomes a wisdom. That's why they say that knowledge alone is a burden, but applied knowledge is a wisdom. It's very powerful when we learn how to apply it. And Lord Krishna, with the word by word, with the verse by verse, he has told us in these 4 verses how to apply this. But then at the end, you all know that application only we can do. No matter how great of a yogi Lord Krishna is, he won't do it for us. No guru will do. No true yogi guru will say, I'll do it for you. That we must have to do. Okay. So let's end today's class here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadai Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.